My hands were still shaking when I walked into the bank that morning. Not from nerves, no. That feeling was long gone. It was rage. A slow, cold kind that coils in your gut and waits. The kind you only feel when someone you love spits right into your soul and laughs while doing it. I wasn't there for a loan. I wasn't even there to deposit a check. I was there to find out where 34 years of my life had gone and why my 401k account suddenly showed zero. Zero. Not a cent. The teller at the desk, sweet girl, maybe 25, smiled like nothing was wrong with the world. "How can I help you today, sir?" I slid my ID across the counter like it was a badge, stared her straight in the eyes, and said, "I need to know where my retirement money went." She blinked, typed in a few things, frowned, then typed again slower. Her fingers hovered. "Sir, this account was emptied 4 days ago. I see several large wire transfers and a complete closure initiated through our mobile app. Do you recognize these?" I leaned in. "Wire transfers to who?" She turned the screen. There it was. One name. Kristen Lowell, my wife of 18 years. I felt the world slow down. The dull roar in my ears drowned out everything else, the tapping of keyboards, the quiet murmur of other customers. I could taste copper in my mouth, like I'd bitten down on something sharp. The girl was talking again, but I wasn't listening. My heart wasn't pounding. It was cracking. You see, Kristen wasn't supposed to be in Vegas. She told me she was visiting her cousin in Maine. "Jen's going through a rough patch," she'd said. "She needs me." She packed a small suitcase, kissed me goodbye like she always did, and promised she'd be back before the weekend. Instead, she took my entire retirement and flew to Nevada. What hit me hardest wasn't the betrayal. Not yet. It was the realization of just how calm she'd been. That fake little kiss at the door. The tight hug. The "love you" she tossed over her shoulder like it was real. I stood there in the bank, jaw clenched so tight my teeth ached, replaying every word she said that morning. I even made her coffee before she left. That part made me want to punch a wall. I left the bank in a daze and sat in my truck for over an hour, engine off, phone in my lap. I didn't call her. I didn't text. I didn't even scream. I just sat there, letting it soak in. That's when I opened her laptop. We never had passwords between us. Trust, right? Huh. Her email was open. I clicked into it without thinking. It was all there. Flight confirmations, a Vegas chapel booking, eternal flame weddings, Elvis officiant available, and even a confirmation for a luxury suite at the Bellagio. The groom's name? Tom Mathers. I didn't know a Tom. Not from her work, not from her gym, not even from the book club she claimed to be in. But here he was, booking dinner for two, making romantic elopement plans, leaving hotel reviews like "the hot tub fits 3. I didn't just feel sick. I felt erased. Like some stranger had taken my place and rewritten my life while I wasn't looking. My phone vibrated. A text from Kristen. "Flight was smooth. Maine's freezing. LOL. Tell your mom I said hi, Rehard." Maine. She was sitting poolside in Vegas with some half-bald clown named Tom while pretending to be comforting her grieving cousin. She even had the nerve to toss a heart emoji at the end like this was some Disney fairy tale. My knuckles whitened around the phone. I wasn't stupid. I didn't scream. I didn't confront her. Not yet. That's not how you win. That's when the gears in my head started turning. I had access to every account. I knew where the spare keys were. I knew what she insured, what she didn't. I even knew her secret credit card she thought I didn't notice on the statements each month, the one she used to buy herself treats when she felt unseen. And I knew how to pull the rug out from under someone without ever raising my voice. So, I did. While Kristen was off in Vegas sipping overpriced champagne, I started making moves. First, I canceled the car insurance on her precious little BMW. Then I called the credit card company and reported her card stolen. Finally, I called a locksmith and changed every lock on our house. But that wasn't all. I filed a fraud report for the 401k. I had every right to. It was mine. Let them trace it. Let them find her signature on the digital form. I didn't care how messy it got. I wanted her to know that this wasn't just betrayal. This was war. And I wasn't the one bleeding yet. The funny thing about betrayal is how quiet it feels when it first sets in. You expect fireworks, screaming, fists through drywall. But instead, it's like someone stuffed a rag in your chest and turned off all the lights. You're just sitting there in the dark, choking on the taste of your own stupidity. That night, I didn't sleep. I just sat in the recliner in the living room, staring at the blank TV screen with the laptop still open beside me, glowing with Kristen's lies. My phone lit up every hour like clockwork. Miss you already. Jen says hi, face blowing kiss. Went out for lobster rolls. So cold here, lol. Can't wait to be home with you. Red heart, red heart, red heart. Every message was a needle jabbed right into the center of my spine. She was in Vegas. She was in a suite I paid for. She was wearing the necklace I bought her for our 10th anniversary in a city that feeds on people too blind to see what's coming. I pulled up the hotel's website again, punched in her reservation number from the email, and there it was, Bellagio, room 2417. Checked in. Under the name Kristen Lowell Mathers. She had already hyphenated her damn name. She hadn't even legally divorced me. My hands were trembling again. Not with fear this time, but with the pure, sharpened focus of a man who knows exactly what's been taken from him, and exactly how to take it all back. I didn't call her. I didn't even flinch. I opened another tab and pulled up the Department of Transportation's website. The BMW? No longer insured. I reported it as not in use and suspended the plates. She wouldn't find out until the moment she got pulled over for a broken taillight and the officer ran her tags. I almost hoped she'd do it in a wedding dress. But I wasn't done. Next, I logged into the joint credit account, our emergency backup. Kristen loved using it when she wanted to spoil herself. I reported the card stolen, flagged it for fraud, and had the account frozen. If she tried to buy a croissant, she'd get a denial beep so loud it would echo across the strip. And just because I was in the mood, I checked our shared Netflix. Someone, Kristen, had made a new profile named Tommy Bear. That's when I truly saw red. She was letting this fool into the part of my life that wasn't even physical. She gave him our shows. I deleted the entire account. Let them sit in their 5-star suite staring at a blank TV screen and wondering what happened to Bridgerton. By 4 a.m., the adrenaline started to dip, but I wasn't done yet. I needed one last piece of insurance. Something more official. So I drove slow and steady to the sheriff's office. I knew one of the deputies, Hank Simmons. We used to fish together a few summers back before Kristen decided fishing was boring and redneck, and started pushing me to trade weekends on the lake for wine tastings and overpriced antique shows. Hank looked at me like he was waiting for a punchline when I told him what I was there for. Marshal fraud, theft, abandonment, maybe even bigamy, I said, tossing the printed emails onto his desk. My wife took my entire retirement, ran off with some clown to Vegas, and might be married right now under a fake name. He whistled low, leafing through the papers. You want to press charges? Not yet, I said. I just want a file open. A trail. He raised an eyebrow. Planning something? Just preparing, I said. For the moment she figures out I'm not the man she thought I was. He nodded slowly and stamped the file. It was official now. There was a record. Driving home, the sunrise started to hit the windshield. And for the first time in days, I felt clear. Not calm-focused. Like I was just loading the first shell into a shotgun I'd been too scared to fire for years. Because if Kristen thought she could disappear into the desert, marry her side guy with my name still on her ID, drain my future, and come home like nothing happened, she'd forgotten who she married. And I couldn't wait for her to find out. By the time Kristen finally decided to call me, I already knew everything. Her voice was sugar-slick and casual, like she was just checking in from a farmer's market, not hiding 3 states away playing bride to some polyester-wrapped clown. Hey, babe, she said, with that stretched-thin sweetness she used whenever she was trying to sell a lie. I miss you so much. Ugh, Jen's Wi-Fi is garbage. That's why I haven't called. I let her talk. I didn't say a word. Not even a breath. And get this, she giggled. We almost hit a moose last night. Dead serious. I screamed so loud. I scared Jen worse than the moose did. She kept going, piling it on, inventing more characters, more details. Every sentence was a shovel digging her deeper into the grave she didn't know she was standing in. And still, I said nothing. Just let the silence stretch. Hello, she finally asked, voice shifting. Sharper now. Are you there? I waited another beat. Then, finally, I spoke. How's the weather in Vegas? Silence. Flat and immediate. Then came the stammer. The what? The babe? What are you talking about? Pure theater. Like a high schooler trying to bluff their way through a test they didn't study for. I could hear Tom's muffled voice in the background. Something about champagne. That idiot wasn't even trying to be discreet. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't curse. I didn't need to. You emptied my 401k. Kristen, I said, calm as ice. You booked a luxury suite at the Bellagio under your name and his. You booked a wedding chapel. You called yourself Kristen Lowell Mathers in the damn reservation email. You lied to me about Maine, about Jen, about everything. So go ahead. Tell me what part of that you want to deny first. Her breathing changed. It was like someone had pressed a pillow against the receiver. I could almost hear her eyes darting around the room, scanning for excuses she hadn't rehearsed. That's not. Listen, I can explain, okay? You're taking this the wrong way. Oh, really? I said, leaning back in my chair. Because the way I'm taking it is that you stole my money, tried to marry someone else without divorcing me, and thought you could just waltz back into our life like it was a weekend spa trip. So, yeah, Kristen, please, explain. She didn't hang up. That's the part that still shocks me. She stayed on the line and kept lying. She claimed it was a mistake, said Tom was just a friend from high school, and they were in Vegas for a business investment opportunity. She claimed the hotel room was his idea, the wedding thing was a joke, and the 401k was just a misunderstanding with the app. I actually laughed out loud at that one. So, just to be clear, you accidentally booked a wedding, drained my retirement, and changed your last name? She went quiet again, and then she snapped. Okay, you know what? Maybe if you hadn't been so boring the last few years, I wouldn't have even looked at Tom twice. You spend your weekends fixing lawnmowers and watching fishing shows. You stop trying. You stop being fun. Tom treats me like I matter. He doesn't make me feel invisible. There it was. The mask slipped. I didn't yell. I didn't even blink. I'd waited to hear the truth. Not the affair. That part one already knew. The truth was the disdain. The casual way she tossed our entire life aside like a cheap dinner plate because she got bored. That was the real betrayal. Not the cheating. The contempt. I hope he was worth it, I said quietly. Because you're not getting a damn penny more. I hung up. That night, I started packing. Not her things, mine. Clothes, documents, tools. I didn't cry. I didn't drink. I didn't spiral. I calculated. I went online, listed the house for sale privately. I called a friend who worked in real estate and told him I'd give him a cut if he could make it disappear fast and quiet. I changed my mailing address to a P.O. box in Sarasota. I forwarded every document, bill, and notice to that box. I cleaned out the garage, sold off what I didn't need, and stacked the rest in my truck. And then I did the most satisfying thing of all. I took Kristen's precious wedding dress, still hanging in the closet in a plastic cover like some sacred relic, and stuffed it into a trash bag with her fake pearl tiara and the champagne flutes she ordered last year with our initials on them. Then I drove to the landfill, and I watched it burn. She wanted a wedding in Vegas? She could have the ashes. Kristen didn't call again the next day. Not once. No apology, no explanation, not even a half-assed, "You misunderstood." That told me everything I needed to know. She was probably too busy sipping overpriced cocktails poolside with that walking midlife crisis. Tom, acting like her little scheme had gone off without a hitch. Only the cracks were already spiderwebbing. I got the first taste of her panic 2 mornings later, buried in a voicemail I didn't even notice until after lunch. The voice that once cooed sweet nothings in my ear sounded shrill, now frantic. Hey, can you call me back? Like, now? I think something's wrong with the insurance. My app isn't showing the BMW, and when I tried to drive out this morning, a cop pulled me over and said the registration was suspended. What the hell is going on, Dean? I played it 3 times, just to savor the edge of fear bleeding into her voice. You see, Kristen loved her car more than she loved most people. She treated that BMW like a status symbol. Getting pulled over in it? That was like dragging a wedding dress through a puddle of oil. A direct hit to her ego. But that wasn't even the beginning. That same evening, I got an email notification from our joint credit account, the one I'd frozen. Apparently, she tried to check out at some boutique gift shop in the hotel lobby. Total, $476.38. Silk robe, scented oils, gold-plated champagne flutes. Denied. Declined. Blocked. And just beneath it, another ping. Fraud alert triggered. User reported for suspicious spending activity. That was me. I reported it. It was legitimate, every time. And I smiled while doing it. I imagined her face in that moment. At the register, card declined, phone buzzing, clerk giving her that look like she was either broke or a thief. Probably both. She would have tried to laugh it off, that fake giggle she used when she was caught red-handed as a teenager. But there's no charm when you're in Vegas with a man who thinks he just married a woman with money, only to find out the only thing she's carrying is debt and a warrant-sized hole in her story. The best part? Tom had no clue. From the documents I'd seen in her email, he believed she was recently divorced, independently wealthy, and between homes. Kristen had told him she was using her money to fund their new life, hinted that she was cashing out some old investments. She hadn't told him a word about me. Not that we were still married. Not that the house was in my name. Not that she'd stolen my retirement to play princess in the desert. And definitely not that everything was unraveling. But it gets better. I wasn't just sitting around popping popcorn and watching her world implode. I was making moves. The house sold faster than I expected. A quiet couple, retired, no kids, offered just below asking in cash. Done. No inspections. No showings. I signed the papers that week. My buddy wired me the deposit the next morning, and just like that, our home was gone. Kristen wouldn't even get to pick up her mail. Then came the storage unit. I found a small place just outside Sarasota, Florida. Clean. Cheap. Secure. I filled it with what little I cared to keep, my tools, my dad's war medals, the photo albums Kristen hadn't already tossed during her minimalism phase, and the single armchair I'd claimed after her interior designer convinced her to redecorate. For better vibes. Everything else? Sold. Online, off the lawn, or straight into donation trucks. I was purging her out of my life like a disease. She must have caught on around day 5. That's when she finally called again. No voicemail this time. I let it ring 3 times. Then I answered. Her voice was brittle. Flat. Dean, we need to talk. I could hear the Bellagio suite behind her. The gentle hum of a wall-mounted AC, the clink of glass, the nervous shuffle of someone standing in the background, probably Tommy Boy, waiting to hear if her little empire had crumbled yet. You told Tom we were divorced, I said. That's bold, even for you. She didn't answer. Also, small update, you're broke, I added, casually. BMW's off the road, credit accounts frozen, and I pulled every dollar back that was left under your name. Oh, and the house? Sold. So unless you plan to shack up with your new husband in the casino basement, I'd suggest you get creative. Kristen didn't scream. She didn't beg. That's not her style. What she did was worse. She laughed. This brittle, bitter little laugh like she just realized the joke was on her, but still couldn't quite believe it. You think this makes you better than me? She hissed. You think ruining my life makes you some kind of hero? I'm not trying to be a hero, Kristen, I said. I'm just making sure the villain gets exactly what she deserves. And I hung up again. I don't know what she told Tom after that, but I can picture it, the unraveling. The second he found out she wasn't a rich divorcee but a thief, a liar, a woman on the edge of getting arrested if one wire transfer looked too shady to the wrong bank. She stole my future, so I took hers. And I wasn't done. Kristen always had a talent for flipping reality on its head. She could torch a room and convince you the smoke was perfume. So I knew that once her fantasy started cracking, she'd try to twist the narrative. That's exactly what happened. 2 days after I cut her off, I got an email from a lawyer in Vegas. Not a divorce lawyer. A civil attorney. The subject line was almost funny. Urgent notice. Dispute regarding marital assets. I opened it, and there it was. Kristen was accusing me of hiding funds, claiming I'd maliciously withheld shared property and unlawfully liquidated joint assets without consent. It was a last-ditch grenade, and it reeked of desperation. I could practically see her behind it, pacing that hotel suite, pacing in circles while Tom asked questions she didn't want to answer. And this lawyer? Just another pawn in her crumbling scheme. But it did force my hand. So I made a call to my attorney, Carter Mayfield. Old-school guy, balding, sharp as a snake, with the emotional range of a dry eraser, but a mind like a bear trap. I explained everything. The 401k, the lies, the fraud, the sudden Vegas escape, the attempted elopement while still married to me. I emailed him the screenshots, the wedding booking confirmations, the messages with Tom, the bank logs. He didn't say much, but when I finished, there was this long pause, and then, "She tried to marry someone else while your accounts were still legally tied?" "Yep. And you have evidence?" "Plenty." "Well, Dean," he said, sighing like he was already filing the paperwork in his mind, "she's not just in breach. She's in free fall. You want me to go nuclear?" I didn't answer right away. I leaned back, looked around the temporary condo I was renting down in Sarasota, where the breeze actually smelled like ocean and not regret, and I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. "No," I said. "I don't want to destroy her. I just want her gone." He nodded once, and I could hear him opening a folder. "Then we'll keep it clean. But if she pushes again, I won't." Kristen did push, of course. Later that week, she showed up on my doorstep. That's right, she flew back. With what money, I'll never know. Probably borrowed, begged, or swindled. I didn't even recognize her at first when I pulled into the driveway and saw her leaning against the porch railing like she still belonged there. She looked smaller. Makeup smeared. Hair tied up in a sloppy twist instead of her usual effortless perfection bun. She was holding a purse that I knew used to carry gift cards and cash, and now probably had nothing but expired receipts and fear in it. "Dean," she started, trying to smile. "We need to talk." "Kristen, this house isn't yours anymore," I said, pointing at the for sale sign that still hung tilted in the flower bed. "You're trespassing." That shook her. But she recovered quick, like she always did. She walked toward me, hand out like this was some marriage counseling session and not the aftermath of a personal apocalypse. "I messed up, okay? I admit it. But we can fix this." I was just confused. I laughed. Couldn't help it. "Confused? You were halfway through a wedding ceremony with another man while still legally my wife. That's not confusion. That's intent." She stepped closer. "He didn't mean anything. It was stupid. It wasn't even legal. We didn't file anything." I looked her dead in the eyes. "But you tried to. That's what matters. You planned a future that didn't have me in it. So now, I'm building one that doesn't have you." She broke then. I saw it. The tightness in her jaw, the twitch in her eye, rage mixing with fear. And right behind it, humiliation. Because none of her tricks worked anymore. Not the tears, not the guilt, not even the memory of 18 years. She'd burned that bridge, and now she was choking on the smoke. "I gave you my best years," she said, voice cracking. "No," I replied. "You gave me your performance. You gave Tom the real you." Then I turned, opened the front door, and walked inside. I didn't slam the door. I didn't yell. I didn't even watch her leave. Because Kristen didn't need a dramatic exit. She needed silence, the kind that echoes when someone realizes they're officially irrelevant. And believe me, that silence was deafening. I didn't see Kristen again after that day on the porch, but I heard from her, indirectly. It started small. The neighbor, Mrs. Trudy's sweet woman, bakes pies like she's trying to kill off the whole block with kindness, sent me a message on Facebook. She never reaches out. Hell, I forgot she even had a Facebook. "Hi, Dean. I don't mean to get in your business, but there was a woman at the house this morning. She parked out front for a while, then walked around back. Thought you should know." She looked upset. I knew it was Kristen. Of course it was. The house had been empty for 2 weeks, nothing left but walls and echoes. Maybe she came looking for some symbolic closure. Or maybe she thought she could sneak something out, a photo album, her designer lamp, the antique mirror she swore had energy. Didn't matter. That house wasn't hers anymore. That part of my life? Condemned. But things escalated fast. The next week, I got a call from Carter, my lawyer. "She filed for emergency spousal support," he said flatly. "Claims she's destitute. Says you abandoned her, left her with nothing." I actually choked on my coffee. Destitute. I laughed. "She emptied my retirement and tried to get remarried." "I know," Carter said, "but she's pulling every trick. I'll handle it." Turns out Kristen had painted me as a tyrant. She claimed I was controlling, financially manipulative, and emotionally withholding. Claimed I forced her to flee to Vegas, where she fell under bad influence. She painted herself like some damsel caught in a storm, not the architect of the entire damn hurricane. It was almost impressive how easily she rewrote the narrative. But she made a mistake. Because people talk. Especially Tom. See, I hadn't thought much about him after I cut her off. He was just the other guy. Some temporary thrill she mistook for a parachute. But then one night, just as I was settling into a greasy sandwich and a rerun of Pawn Stars, I got a message on LinkedIn. Yes, LinkedIn. From Tom. You don't know me, but I think we need to talk. It's about Kristen. Now, I don't usually entertain messages from men sleeping with my wife, but curiosity won. I gave him a burner number, told him to call. And he did. His voice was tense, embarrassed. He stumbled over every word like he'd just found a gun under his pillow. I didn't know she was married, man. I swear. She told me you were out of the picture. Said the divorce was finalized last year. I didn't say anything. I just let him talk. She said she had money. Said she owned the house, had savings, investments. Look, I didn't come here to apologize. She bailed on me. Left the hotel while I was in the shower. Took the rest of my cash. I think she even used my name to open a new card. That part caught my attention. You filed a report? I asked. I did, he said, voice flat. The Vegas cops didn't care much. Said it was a civil matter. But she's running, man. She's not just lying. She's hiding. It all clicked. Kristen hadn't just lost. She hadn't just burned her bridges. She was trying to disappear. But she couldn't vanish quietly, not without scratching one more name off her little revenge list, mine. I thanked Tom for the call, hung up, and sat there in the dark. It wasn't satisfaction I felt. Not even relief. It was something deeper. Clarity. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. Kristen was a sinking ship, and now she was dragging down anyone close enough to reach. She'd faked a marriage, lied to the government, spent stolen money, tried to claim support from the very man she robbed. And I knew exactly what she'd try next. She'd go after my pension. I had to act first. I scheduled a full audit of every joint asset. Froze anything I'd forgotten. Had Carter update the petition with everything Tom told me. We filed an injunction on her name connected to any open credit applications. We even flagged her social security number under marital fraud risk, a move Carter said was rare but fitting. And then, quietly, I started preparing for the finale. Because Kristen wasn't going to walk away from this quietly. And I wasn't going to let her. It was a Thursday when the letter arrived. Thick, cream-colored envelope. No return address. My name scribbled on the front in a handwriting I hadn't seen in months, but recognized instantly. Kristen's. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. Not because I was afraid of what was inside. No. By now, I knew her moves. Knew her cadence, her rhythm. This wasn't going to be a heartfelt apology or some last desperate plea to get me back. No, this was going to be a trap. One more mind game from a woman who couldn't stand losing control. Inside was a handwritten letter, 5 pages long. The smell of her perfume hit me before I even read the first line. Same scent she used when she'd get dolled up for date nights that didn't happen. The one she wore when she came home late with lipstick smudged and excuses ready. But what caught me wasn't the smell. It was the title, What You Never Gave Me. It was a list. A damn inventory of everything she claimed I had denied her over the years. Vacations we didn't take. Jewelry I didn't buy. Children she pretended to want because I was emotionally cold. It was written like some bitter memoir of a housewife scorned by the fact that her husband wasn't psychic. And right in the middle, like a punch to the ribs, she wrote this. You never saw me. You saw your idea of me. And when I stopped fitting in your idea, you punished me by being ordinary. Ordinary. That was the knife. Not the betrayal. Not the money. Not the lies. Ordinary. I read the letter twice, then folded it neatly and slid it back into the envelope. I didn't burn it. I didn't throw it away. I put it in a drawer marked evidence. Because the truth was, Kristen hadn't written me a letter. She'd written herself a noose. 3 days later, I got the second blow. Carter called early, too early for anything casual. His voice was tight, clipped. She hired a new lawyer, he said. They're filing a motion to contest the asset separation. I already knew it was coming. What's the argument this time? She's claiming mental duress. That she wasn't in a rational state of mind when she accessed the 401k. Claims Tom was manipulative. That you were emotionally abusive. that you sabotaged her independence. There it was. The nuclear card. Not just lies now, character assassination. She wasn't just trying to survive. She was trying to burn my name into the ground. But this time, I was ready. I told Carter to dig deep. Everything Kristen had left behind. Texts, emails, screenshots, even her browsing history from the cloud backup I still had access to. Turns out, Kristen wasn't exactly a tech genius. She'd never changed the password to our synced account. Every search, every calendar note, every romantic Vegas itinerary, it was all still there. We found the receipts. The flight booked with my stolen funds. The chapel reservation with her fake new name. The photos in the Bellagio suite, saved automatically to the cloud she forgot we shared. Her in lingerie. Him in bed. Bottle of Moat on the nightstand. All dated. All time-stamped. All undeniable. That's when Carter said it. You want to take this public? I hesitated. Not because I was protecting her. God, no. But because once it's public, it's war. No stepping back. No quiet ending. But then I remembered the letter. Ordinary. Like everything I gave her, everything I was some gray, lifeless thing she had to escape from. No, I wasn't hiding anymore. Yeah, I said. Let's take the gloves off. So we filed. A full rebuttal. Every lie countered with hard evidence. Every claim shut down with receipts. We didn't just push back. We buried her in truth. And the cherry on top? I filed a report with the Nevada Marriage Bureau. Anonymous tip. Claimed a woman attempted a wedding under a false name while still married in another state. Attached the photos. The reservation. The timestamp. They opened an investigation. Because fake marriages in Vegas aren't always treated like jokes. Sometimes, they're considered fraud. And suddenly, Kristen had more than a civil dispute on her hands. She had the state of Nevada sniffing around. And I was just getting started. Kristen made her next move in classic Kristen fashion. Bold, theatrical, and wildly self-destructive. I woke up that Tuesday morning to a dozen missed calls and 3 voicemails, not from her, but from a number I didn't recognize. New York area code. I ignored it at first, assuming it was a scammer or one of those, your car warranty is expiring calls that never seem to die. But then I checked my email. Subject line. Urgent. Press inquiry regarding Vegas incident. There it was. Some online tabloid that specialized in real-life scandals and trashy exposés had somehow gotten hold of the Vegas chapel story. They claimed to have photos. Claimed a source close to the groom. Reported a woman attempting to get married while legally married to another man who was allegedly defrauded out of his retirement. I read the article 3 times. It wasn't just bad. It was devastating for her. They named her. First and last. Kristen Lowell, 38, attempted to wed Thomas Mathers, 41, at the Eternal Flame Chapel in Las Vegas while allegedly still married to her first husband, Dean Lowell. The article detailed the events like a thriller: stolen funds, falsified identities, canceled cards, and even the Nevada investigation. I didn't leak it, but Tom did. Apparently, he was the source close to the groom. And that's when I realized Kristen had finally overplayed her last hand. See, she tried to save face by dumping him before the fallout landed. Thought she could slip away with whatever money she had left and rewrite the story somewhere new. Maybe Miami. Maybe Scottsdale. Anywhere with pools and men dumb enough to buy her version. But Tom? He'd had enough. He exposed everything. Sent screenshots. Credit card charges. Even a voicemail she left him claiming I was a violent narcissist who had trapped her in a loveless cage. There it was again. That word. Cage. That's what Kristen called our 18 years. Not a marriage. Not a partnership. A cage. By mid-afternoon, the article had made its rounds. Local news picked it up. Reddit threads exploded. One even made it to the front page, titled, "Woman tries to marry side dude in Vegas while still married. Steals husband's 401k." The comments were brutal. And I won't lie. Every word was like medicine to a wound I didn't know was still open. She really tried to speedrun fraud and infidelity. Imagine draining your man's retirement to marry a second guy in front of an Elvis impersonator. This woman deserves a Netflix miniseries, in prison. Kristen tried damage control, of course. That night, her lawyer emailed a cease and desist threat to the outlet. But the damage was done. And the cherry on top? The Nevada State Marriage Office reached out to me personally. The investigator had questions. Mr. Lowell, we're trying to verify some inconsistencies with the attempted wedding registration. We'd like to speak with you about the legitimacy of your ongoing marriage status with Ms. Kristen Lowell. I didn't even have to fake the enthusiasm. Happy to help, I said. You'll want to bring a pin. I gave them everything. Every receipt, every date-stamped photo, every email and message. The timeline told the full story, and more importantly, it told it in her words. Kristen had walked herself right into a legal meat grinder. She'd gone from champagne to criminal inquiry in under 6 weeks. And just when I thought the storm couldn't twist any harder, my phone rang. It was her. Blocked number. But her voice? Unmistakable. You son of a bitch, she hissed, skipping right past the greetings. You think you've won? I didn't speak. You've humiliated me, she spat. You let them write about me like I'm some con artist. You fed them lies, you ruined my life. I stayed silent, let her scream. Her voice cracked halfway through the rant. The desperation cut through the fury like a rusty blade. Dean, listen. We can still fix this. You don't have to do this. Just drop the charges. Please. I made mistakes, but I don't deserve to be punished like this. I was just scared. There it was. The pivot. The plea. Always when her back hit the wall. I almost said something. Almost. But instead, I hung up. No goodbyes. No anger. Just click. Because it wasn't my job to explain anymore. It was the state of Nevada's. And they had questions. I didn't hear from Kristen again for 9 days. That's not to say she wasn't busy. I knew exactly what she was doing scrambling. She was calling every lawyer in the Western Hemisphere, trying to find someone who could fix the mess she created. But there's a funny thing about chaos. Once you light the fuse, you don't get to control the blast radius. And her fuse had burned straight into the court system. Nevada's investigation picked up speed. I got calls from 2 different agencies, one financial, one civil. Both wanted statements. Both had questions about Kristen's intended use of funds and knowledge of her marital status at the time of attempted marriage. Her attorney filed a request to pause all proceedings, citing emotional distress. The judge denied it in under 48 hours. Meanwhile, I was thriving. No, not in the new girlfriend, new haircut, new lease on life kind of way. That would come later. For now, it was simpler, sharper. I was at peace. Every morning, I woke up to the smell of salt and sunrise in Sarasota. I'd walk to the coffee shop by the beach, not at the same quiet folks reading papers or watching gulls argue over scraps. I'd sit at my usual table and sip black coffee from a chipped mug while the breeze slid in through the open window. No accusations. No games. No pretending. And slowly, finally, my mind stopped buzzing. Then, one night, it happened. I got an email from Carter with the subject line. She blinked. I opened it and found 2 things, a scanned copy of Kristen's formal response to our filing and a short message from Carter beneath it. She's offering settlement. Wants to avoid trial. Says she'll drop all claims if you sign a mutual non-disparagement and allow her to walk with a portion of remaining joint assets. I read it twice. She was surrendering. Not because she wanted to make peace, but because she wanted to save face. The tabloids, the legal risk, the public shame, it finally caught up with her. She knew what was coming in discovery. She knew what the courtroom would look like when Carter dropped a projector full of her stolen photos and booking confirmations. She wasn't scared of prison, not really. She was scared of something worse, irrelevance. But here's where it gets good. She wanted silence. She wanted to leave quietly. Disappear with her dignity wrapped around her like a stained fur coat. That's all the settlement was, a gag order. So I told Carter no. No deal. No silence. We proceed. Because some stories need to be heard. The next morning, Kristen herself called me. Again from a blocked number, because I'd already burned every bridge she thought she could walk back across. Her voice was different this time. No sugar. No rage. Just hollow. I can't fix it, can I? She asked quietly. I said nothing. I thought, if I just left fast enough, if I just built something else, it would all go away. Again, I didn't answer. I ruined it, didn't I? That one stung. Not because I wanted her to admit it, but because she said it like she'd broken a vase. Like she dropped a favorite cup and wanted to shrug it off with a sigh. You didn't ruin it, I finally said. You chose to destroy it. That's different. She sniffled, then whispered the last thing I expected to hear from her. I think I'm going to turn myself in. The words hung in the air, heavy and surreal. I didn't congratulate her. I didn't comfort her. I simply said, do it for the truth, not for pity. And I hung up. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was stressed, but because for the first time, I wasn't. It was strange, this stillness. Like being in the eye of a storm you've already survived. Everything around you is wreckage, but inside? Silence. Kristen was collapsing. But me? I was standing. It happened the following Tuesday, early morning, gray skies over Sarasota, and the kind of coastal wind that makes the palm trees lean just a little too far. I had just finished my second cup of coffee when Carter called. She did it, he said. Kristen turned herself into the Vegas office. Walked in, alone. No attorney present. I didn't speak. She gave them a full statement. Confessed to fraud, identity misrepresentation, misuse of marital funds. She didn't fight the marriage attempt charges. Said she wanted to take responsibility. I let that sit for a long, cold moment. I should have felt something. Triumph, maybe. Closure. But what I felt was stranger. Disbelief. Not because she turned herself and she'd run out of places to hide, but because part of me still remembered the woman I married. The woman who, at one time, used to dance barefoot in the kitchen when the radio played old Fleetwood Mac songs. The woman who used to leave handwritten notes in my lunch bag, even if we'd argued the night before. That woman was long gone, buried beneath greed, ego, and lies. And now here she was, resurfacing just long enough to sign her own name on a confession. I asked Carter what happened next. She'll be processed. Might avoid jail time if she cooperates fully. They'll want restitution, some kind of repayment for the fraud. But given what we filed, she's got no leverage. She's not even trying to negotiate. I rubbed the back of my neck. So she gave up. Looks like it. She's done fighting. I hung up shortly after. No victory dance. No champagne. Just silence, like the house had exhaled. But that silence didn't last long. Because 2 days later, I got a letter. Not an email. Not a call. A real, paper letter. No perfume this time. No glittering drama. Just her handwriting. Small. Tired. Inside were 3 things. A single-page note, folded tightly, and 2 photographs. The first photo was from years ago, me and Kristen on the dock behind our old house, holding mugs, laughing. I didn't remember it being taken. She must have kept it tucked somewhere all these years. The second photo was one I'd never seen. Kristen and Tom. In the suite. He's shirtless. She's got that fake smile plastered on, the kind she used when she needed someone to believe she was still in control. Her eyes, though, red, swollen. Makeup smeared. A queen without her crown. The letter was short. No lies. No spins. Dean. You're right. I chose this. I lied and lied again. Not just to you, but to myself. I wanted more. I thought more meant money, newness, escape. I didn't see what I had until I set it on fire. You gave me everything. You gave me a life, and I traded it for an illusion. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know, you were never the villain. You were the only person who stayed real while I drowned in fantasy. I hope the silence I left you with turns into peace. I don't deserve it, but I hope you find it anyway. K. I read it 3 times. Then I folded it shut and slid it into the back of a drawer, not to forget, but to remember. Not her lies, not her betrayal, but that final flicker of honesty. That tiny, flickering admission from a woman who spent so long pretending she was right. She wasn't asking for redemption. She was surrendering it. The next day, I closed the final account that still bore her name. The paper trail was over. The legal side would wrap up in weeks, maybe months. Restitution would come in time. But the chapter? It was ending. And I could feel it in my bones. Part 11 was coming. And she wouldn't be the one writing it. I would. Part 11 began not with a phone call or a letter, but with a knock. 3 sharp raps on the door of my condo. It was mid-morning, the sun hanging low, heavy over the Gulf. I had just finished washing dishes when I heard it, a knock that didn't carry the clumsy rhythm of a neighbor or the lazy thud of a delivery guy. I opened the door, and there he stood, Tom, slightly disheveled, shirt wrinkled, collar open, and a look on his face like he hadn't slept in a week. Behind his sunglasses, I could see a man trying to stitch his pride back together with fraying thread. I didn't invite him in. I just leaned on the frame, waiting. He spoke first. "I'm not here to start anything." "Then talk," I said. He took off his glasses and sighed. "She sent me the letter too." I didn't need to ask which one. The one with the pictures. The one with the quiet truth finally scratched onto paper. I'd wondered if she'd reach out to him after turning herself in. Apparently, she had. Tom looked down, like the pavement held the words he couldn't quite form. I didn't know the full story. I mean, I knew she was lying, eventually, but I didn't realize how deep it went. The way she used us both, how she played with everything. He paused, looked me in the eye. "She said you'd already won, that you didn't need anything from her anymore. But I don't think that's true." I folded my arms. "And what do you think I need, Tom?" He hesitated. Then he pulled a small flash drive from his pocket and held it out to me. "She filmed everything," he said. "Not just the wedding crap. She recorded conversations, diaries, stuff she was going to use in case things went bad. Insurance, she called it." I stared at the drive. She never thought she'd need it. But I went through it all. And some of it you should hear. I didn't take it at first. Part of me wanted to slam the door, move on, stay clean. But another part, that quiet, meticulous part that had kept track of every lie, wanted closure. So I took it. Tom nodded once, stepped back. "I know I was the other guy," he said, "and I won't ever pretend I deserve sympathy. But for what it's worth, she lied to both of us. I'm just lucky I only lost money." He left without another word. That evening, I plugged the flash drive into my laptop, poured a whiskey, and sat back as Kristen's voice filled the room one last time. The first file was a video, grainy, filmed from her phone, propped up in a hotel room. She was alone, wrapped in a robe, eyes glossy. There was no sparkle, no mask, just a woman unraveling in slow motion. Tom's asleep. It's past midnight. I lied to him again today. Said the house sold for less than expected. Said I'd wire him my half when I got the paperwork. But there is no paperwork. There is no half. Dean probably already sold the place. He's smarter than I gave him credit for. He's not yelling. He's erasing me. And it's working. Next clip. I thought if I made it big enough, Vegas, the dress, the ring, the whole fantasy, then maybe it would feel real. But all I feel is cold. Even in this stupid suite. I thought Tom would be different. But all he sees is the version of me I invented. He doesn't know the real one. I don't think anyone does anymore. Then the audio files. Conversations with friends. Whispered calls to her mother. Panicked voice memos where she wrestled with what she called the lie I married myself into. One message chilled me to the bone. Dean was always safe. Too safe. And that terrified me. Because if he stayed, and I still felt empty, then maybe the problem wasn't him. Maybe it was me. That was it. That was the sentence. The one I needed. The one I didn't know I'd been waiting for. She'd spent months destroying me with words, calling me ordinary, lifeless, unworthy of passion. And here, in the dark, in a moment she never meant for anyone to hear, she finally admitted it. The problem was never me. It was her. Her emptiness. Her hunger. Her mirror that never gave back enough reflection. I closed the laptop. Didn't cry. Didn't smile. I just sat there, hand on the glass, staring out the window at the Florida dusk. That night, I packed a small bag. Not to run. Not to hide. To finish. I booked a flight back to Nevada. Because the final court hearing was coming. The day I'd see her again. And this time, I would be the one writing the ending. Nevada smelled like heat and concrete. Dry, cracked streets baking under a sun that didn't care who you were or what you'd done. I stepped off the plane with nothing but a carry-on, a folder of documents, and the kind of calm you only earn after walking through fire and coming out with your skin intact. Court was set for 9:30 a.m. Family Division. Final hearing. The judge was a woman in her late 50s, short silver bob, no nonsense. The kind of face that had seen more lies than a casino pit boss. She didn't smile. She didn't blink much either. I liked her immediately. Kristen was already seated when I entered the courtroom. She looked smaller. Not physically, but in presence. Her hair was flat, roots showing. No makeup. No jewelry. The spark she used to weaponize like a blade was gone. Just a court-appointed suit, a legal pad she never wrote on, and a stare fixed permanently on the desk in front of her. She didn't look at me. Good. I took my seat beside Carter. He slid over a copy of her final submission, thin, desperate, a plea for reasonable settlement terms and shared accountability. The word mistake appeared 17 times. The word fraud not once. The judge cleared her throat, eyes flicking between us. Let's begin. It wasn't a long hearing. We had evidence. So much evidence, we didn't even need to show half of it. Carter laid it all out like a surgeon presenting x-rays, joint account statements, wire transfers, wedding chapel bookings under false identity, photos, messages, videos. Clean. Cold. Surgical. Kristen's attorney tried to spin. Claimed emotional instability. That she had been manipulated by external influences. Tom, who, by the way, submitted his own affidavit detailing her deceit. That she panicked and made a series of impulsive decisions during an emotionally vulnerable period. The judge didn't even shift in her chair. She looked at Kristen. Did you know you were still legally married when you attempted to marry another man? Kristen nodded, barely. Yes. Did you use your husband's retirement fund to finance the trip, hotel, and expenses associated with that elopement? A whisper. Yes. Were any of these actions discussed with or approved by your husband prior to execution? She didn't speak. The silence was louder than anything she could have said. The judge leaned back and folded her hands. In my time on this bench, I've seen betrayal, recklessness, cruelty, but rarely all three in one file. You knowingly exploited marital trust, committed financial fraud, and attempted a bigamous marriage. All of this while portraying your spouse as emotionally negligent. She paused, then turned to me. Mr. Lowell, do you have anything you'd like to say before I issue my ruling? I stood slowly. I looked at Kristen for the first time in weeks. She didn't lift her head. I don't want her money, I said. I don't want her apology. I want this chapter closed. I want my name back. My peace. And I want the truth to stay on record because I didn't destroy this marriage. She did. I sat down. The judge nodded. Then she delivered the ruling. Full asset control reverted to me. She denied Kristen any share of post-separation value. Restitution ordered and partial payments from Kristen. No bankruptcy protection permitted due to fraud origin. A formal warning entered on her civil record, and criminal charges suspended only due to cooperation and confession. It was over. I walked out into the sun, blinking against the light. Carter clapped me once on the back, said something about peace of mind. I barely heard him. My ears were ringing, not from stress, but release. Outside, Kristen sat alone on a bench, clutching a water bottle like it was the last thing tethering her to the planet. She looked up as I passed. Dean, she said softly. I stopped. I know, she whispered. I know what I am now. I looked her in the eyes. The woman who once took my hand in front of an altar and vowed to walk with me through everything sickness, health, storms, stillness. Now she just looked like a ghost wearing a courtroom suit. You don't need to know what you are, I said. You need to learn who you chose to be. Then I walked away. Back to the airport. Back to Florida. Back to freedom. And you know what? The sun hit different that afternoon. Not because I won, but because I was finally done. And that, my friends, is how you let a woman bury herself. With her own shovel.